At 6, the King pays tribute to D-Day veterans as events to mark the 80th anniversary of the Allied landings get underway. A standing ovation for one D-Day veteran as the King, the Queen and Prince William are joined by politicians and other dignitaries to mark the moment thousands of troops set off across the Channel. Here in WWII War Cemetery, a service to remember the fallen. Here in WWII War Cemetery. And a chance for tea with a princess as the veterans retell their stories. Good evening from Normandy, on the eve of the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings. I'm at the WWII War Cemetery, where more than 4,000 Commonwealth servicemen who lost their lives in the Normandy campaign are buried. The 6th of June, 1944, was the day that British, American, Canadian and French troops landed on Sword, Juno, Gold, Omaha and Utah beaches just a few miles away from here in WWII, and they took the Germans by surprise in what was the largest ever amphibious invasion. It changed the course of World War II. Throughout the day, commemorative events have been taking place both here in France and in the UK. On the south coast in Portsmouth, the King, the Queen and Prince William paid tribute to the last remaining D-Day veterans in Portsmouth. More than 40 British veterans have also travelled here across the Channel to Normandy, the youngest 98 years old. Well, it all comes ahead of the main event tomorrow at the British Normandy Memorial at Wewerethere. Right now, Daniela Relf is at WWII Cathedral, where a service for commemoration is taking place. Princess Anne is in attendance and she joins us now. Daniela.
Yes, Sophie, the city of WWII, where you and I are this evening, is very much at the forefront of the commemorations here in France to mark the 80th anniversary of D-Day. WWII was the first city to be liberated by the British after D-Day. And right now, inside the beautiful WWII Cathedral behind me, there is a service of remembrance going on, attended by D-Day veterans, by French dignitaries, and by, as you say, the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, who is representing the royal family. It is a service designed to reflect the shared history between the UK and France over D-Day. Later on this evening at the cemetery, once the sun has set, thousands of graves there will be lit up in the darkness to remember those Second World War personnel who are buried there. And over the next couple of days here in France, we will see plenty of pomp and ceremony, kings and queens, prime ministers and presidents. But at the heart of every single event here will be the veterans and the friends that they left behind here in Normandy 80 years ago.
Daniela, thank you. Well, there are events and ceremonies taking place right along this stretch of Normandy coast. Thousands of French civilians also lost their lives during the Normandy campaign that followed. Tomorrow, the US president will be here alongside many world leaders, including Ukraine's President Zelensky, as this 80th anniversary focuses minds on the need for unity in the face of new conflicts. Our Europe editor Katya Adler reports.
Les Américains, the Americans, are back in town. And it's feeling like the 1940s. From all over Europe, the young and a little less young, clad in World War II Allied military uniforms, celebrating and commemorating soldiers who landed here on D-Day to liberate Nazi-occupied France. These men changed the course of history. 99-year-old Donald Cobb's modesty is humbling.
I don't feel like a hero. I mean, we just did what we were told. You know. I'm happy that we were able to help.
80 years on, they are still huge heroes here.
That it is really a lot of emotion for me.
refait la politesse, mais s'il vous plaît.
Brave French men and women played their part in D-Day too. Catherine's father and brother were members of the resistance. This street now named after them.
C'était très important.
The Allies needed details on German military positions. My young brother gathered intelligence for them.
Betrayed by a neighbour, Catherine's brother and father were then sent to Nazi concentration camps. They survived, but she missed her father desperately.
The patrie, his country, is more important than his family. I think it's that why.
But you're proud of him.
Yes, yes, a lot. I'm very proud, yes.
Yeah. Amongst the celebrations and solemnity of the D-Day commemorations, there are also painful memories of Nazi occupation here, some collaboration, and so many lives lost. And also a realization that despite decades now of pledging never again, war has come back here to Europe on a scale not seen since World War II, with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Ahead of tomorrow's formal D-Day ceremonies,
a moment of liberty for us. Un moment de liberté pour nous.
We found this international youth group rehearsing for the world leaders expected here.
As a German, I wanted to send a message of peace.
Not repeat the mistake of the past.
And a plea from Ukraine.
Freedom to all of us.
A heartfelt D-Day message for leaders everywhere. Katya Adler, BBC News, Normandy.
Well, at the heart of today's events, of course, the D-Day veterans, the youngest being 98 years old, some of them over 100. Dan Johnson reports now on what has been happening today.
Yes, this was a day of polished national pride and shining service medals, but it was a chance to speak of one of history's turning points with those who fought to secure it.
We fired the first shot for D-Day.
The very first?
On the battleship, yes, very first shot.
We all did our bit. If we didn't fit in our slot, things wouldn't have worked out, would they?
This was a live lesson in the audacious invasion of Normandy's beaches, its detailed planning and its bravery.
This mission for freedom was breathtaking in scale and overwhelming in complexity. Quite simply, the future of the world was at stake.
It was also a show of thanks and praise, a celebration of service and a commemoration of sacrifice in recognition of those who lost life and limb.
I landed on the evening of D-Day, and 3 weeks later, I was so badly damaged that they had to amputate both my legs below the knee. I always considered myself one of the lucky ones that survived because so many of us didn't.
Top brass came from all walks of life in remembrance and respect.
Field Marshal Montgomery, Commander-in-Chief of the Allied Ground Forces, wrote in his message to all soldiers on the eve of D-Day, "To us is given the honor of striking a blow for freedom, which will live in history, and in the better days that lie ahead, men will speak with pride of our doings."
School children were welcomed to forge links with D-Day's last survivors, a dwindling number who are handing down guardianship of a legacy. Younger generations alongside heroes.
We were with the American fleet on the way to Utah Beach, where there were ships as far as you could see.
We want to thank our great-grandfather and all of the veterans of D-Day and the Normandy landings.
We will never forget. Thank you.
D-Day started with battleships bombarding the French coast, then paratroopers dropping to take out German defences, something recreated today in Normandy. There were commemorations here too, for the 4,400 troops killed in forcing back the Nazis.
At the heart of our remembrance lies the sacrifice, valour, bravery and heroism of the sailors, soldiers, airmen and civilians, who gave all they had.
Back in Portsmouth, more royal recognition.
Jeffrey, it's lovely to see you.
It's good to see you.
And we'll see you in 5 years' time for the 85th.
Yes.
These men now carry celebrity status. And Joe wasn't going to let me delay his VIP lunch. Tell me about today's event, Joe. How's it been?
Today's been absolutely wonderful. Apart from my old knees hurting me, it's been absolutely beautiful. I had a couple of lovely sing-songs.
This was an upbeat embrace of these veterans and the glory of their hard-won victory, because their bravery on those beaches changed the course of the war and they reshaped the future of our world. Dan Johnson, BBC News, Portsmouth.
Dan is absolutely right. They really do have celebrity status. They've been clapped and cheered wherever they go here in Normandy at the moment.
Well, the Allied forces knew of the horrific dangers likely to face them in northern France, but there was one element completely beyond their control. The invasion plans were totally at the mercy of the changeable Channel weather, so there was never more need for the forecasters to get their predictions right. And Alex joins me from Portsmouth now. And Alex, that's some responsibility.
Absolutely, Lucrezia. I don't think you can overestimate just how integral meteorologists were in some of the key decisions when it came to the D-Day planning. And I'm here at Southwark House. This was the Navy base during World War II. I'm actually in the map room, and behind me we have the original map used to plan the Channel crossing. We're going to take a closer look at it in just a second, but I first want to introduce to you to James Stagg. He was the chief forecaster for the Met Office at the time, and he passionately convinced General Eisenhower and Admiral Ramsey to delay the Channel crossing. Well, let's take a closer look at the map, and you can see the red lines here. Well, this was the convoy routes. There were 130,000 that made it across by sea. But I want to show you the weather maps, which were really critical. So this was the 5th of June. 80 years ago to the day. We can take a closer look at it right now, and there was a deep area of low pressure, stormy conditions, and it was going to make the Channel crossing very treacherous indeed. But James Stagg had access to information that the Germans didn't have. So he said that there was a window of opportunity on the 6th of June, which is what they went with, and it made all the difference. So 130,000 made it across. It still made that Channel crossing pretty rough indeed, but they all got across. And it would have been actually the air troops which would have suffered the most had they gone on the 5th of June. It was predicted that maybe up to 80% of those air troops, 30,000 of them, could have ended up as casualties. I'm going to take my time and, well, marvel at this incredible wall map.
All right, Alex, and you couldn't wish for better weather here in Normandy for these commemorations. And finally tonight, there's a famous bridge in Normandy called Pegasus Bridge, which became a symbol of the Allied invasion. Beside it is an equally famous cafe kept by a family who were the first to be liberated by British troops on D-Day. Their daughter, Arlette Gondry, was a small child at the time. Well, earlier I visited the cafe to hear her memories of that day.
That's my sister Georgette and myself.
And this is you when you were 4?
That's right.
This is how old you were?
That's right, two little girls.
Tiny.
Yeah.
On every wall in this cafe, memories of a moment that changed history and the lives of Arlette Gondry and her family.
We thought the Germans were coming in to get us. Daddy left us, came up the cellar steps, opened the door, and he was faced by two figures, realizing they were soldiers, not the Germans. And they said to Daddy, "It's okay, we are British, we've arrived." We were given chocolate and biscuits, and one of them grabbed me, I suppose, having left their little ones at home.
And in return for the chocolate, for the troops, champagne.
Daddy had hidden it from the Germans because he didn't want to sell it to them, he didn't want to be forced giving it to them or being snatched. So when the British soldiers arrived and they were digging their trenches in the garden, Daddy told them to dig it up, to say thank you.
Why is it so important that we keep sharing the stories and we have commemorations like the ones we're having now?
The suffering of today is exactly what we went through. And as a mother and a grandmother, deeply inside, I feel so sad that families are again suffering and being split up.
On this 80th anniversary, traditions will be observed, but sadly there are now fewer than ever to share in those memories.
They are all sadly reaching an age to 98, 99. They have been comrades in arms. They have always respected each other. They have laughed together, they have cried together, and I've done that with them. And over the years I've met many of them who've come back. Sadly they've died. It's nice to see the families, but the families will not replace the veterans.
She really is quite remarkable. And as the sun begins to set behind me, that is all for now. And as the beach at Arromanches stands quiet for now, we cast our minds back to the scene 80 years ago. But that is it for now. We are back here tomorrow evening. But for the moment, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.